Hello. So I'm going outside just to remind them that they are late. And you know that as journalists, we can't be late because we are live going. Like, so just, do you mean, Melanie, there's a lot of people over there? No? You don't know? Okay.
You want me to go check?
Yeah, okay. Thanks. We are a team, so it's Melanie who is going walking. I'm just going speaking. So first of all, I need to tell you that the symposium will be recorded. So take care when you are opening your microphone not to say too bad things of ENAJ, because we will listen to you afterwards. We have to share the microphone. Is it okay for you? Okay, so I'm Yann Bolo. I'm the chairwoman of Management Committee of ENAJ, and I'm very delighted to welcome you here. First of all, I need to thank very deeply Mr. Cercone, who is here to present a European Committee of Regions. Sorry, my French is always there, so I need to struggle with it. And Mr. Rouillon was due to be there, but due to the passing of Mr. Lionel Jospin in France, who is former Prime Minister, and he is not here because he's at the funeral of Mr. Jospin today. So thank you very much, Mr. Cercone, to take the floor now.
Thank you very much indeed, and it's a real pleasure to meet you all. With some of you we have already met in the past, others I hope we'll meet and have the possibility to work together in the future. So of course, as you know, your symposium, which is a very important event, is taking place within the premises of the European Committee of the Regions. I know that when it comes to the European institution, it's not the most popular or extremely well known. I hope that this will be also an opportunity for you to get a bit more familiar with it and what it does and what the role and function is. Very briefly, is the House of Regions and Cities as the voice of the over 1.2 million local and regional elected politicians who are currently, as of today, active in Europe and who make democracy happen every single day. Our members are elected politicians at regional and local level. They are appointed by the member states. Of course, there's a quota per country, not directly proportional, but representing the overall population. And it's a political house. It's a political house where members gather, just if you're familiar with the parliament, more or less in the same way. They gather into political families, European political families, so European Popular Party, European Socialist Party, Renew. And then the work they do is to assess and look at EU legislative proposals from the regional and local angle. So they do the kind of job that brings on the table the worries, the concerns, the input, and the ideas of those who have then concretely to implement these legislative pieces of legislation on the ground. Just for you to know, 70% of the EU legislation is implemented at regional and local level by regional and local elected politicians who are therefore key actors. So within the EU institutions, we're the young ones, we're 30 years old, more or less. And as you can imagine, it was a process of also learning how to play this role. And this role is becoming more and more relevant within the EU legislative process. It is a consultative body, so of course we do, within our own limit, understand that we are there for our views to be taken into account, but at the same time, not only the European Committee of the Region plays its role via the official treaty elements when it comes to the European legislative process, but as you can imagine, our members are very close to the citizens, to the voters. I'm not making any names, but recently I was talking to one of our members, and out of curiosity, I asked him, so how many votes did you get at your last regional election? And the answer was, if you sum the votes of 10 MEPs from my country, you get the number of my votes. So you can see, and it's also true, of course, it's crucial because regional and local elected politicians, they do have the trust of their citizens. They do know what's at stake. They know the daily problems. They face it. They try to find solutions. This brings me also to the importance of your role. As a former journalist myself, I've been working in Brussels as an EU correspondent for 5 years. And after that, I passed on the other side of the barricade as a spokesperson for the European Commission. I do really understand, allow me to say, the core issue at stake when you say how information circulates within the Brussels bubble. Because one of my remarks has always been, whether it was for the Commission, for the Parliament, where I also had the chance to work in communication, the Committee of the Region, often we are very blind when it comes in Brussels when it comes to communication, and we don't realize that much of our communication stops at the ring. If you're familiar with Brussels, the ring is basically the sort of circle of main highways that surrounds Brussels. It doesn't even get to the capitals, that's what I'm saying. What the Commission, the Parliament, the Committee of the Region, what we do often is so ill-prepared in communication terms that it just doesn't pass through because of the jargon, because of the level of simplification that is needed. What for us, after I've been in Brussels now for over 20 years, and I do realize that the language I speak when it comes to European policies is unintelligible to most of the members who come from the local level. There is not only a jargon problem, there's a problem when it comes even to the language we speak. We tend to assume that English is very well spoken and understood everywhere. Absolutely not the case. I have to say that the Committee of the Region has quite a strong and solid background in making available information in all languages, so we do have this. But this brings me to the fact that what you're discussing today is crucial, and your role is crucial. Your role is crucial because, especially the times we're living, where the channels and tools at the disposal are multiplying and not always are in line with what we have developed in the Occidental democracy system in the past, I would say, 200 years, which is reliable source of information, responsible for what they say. Well, all of this is at stake. So the role of journalists, and in particular your role as journalists who are specialized in agricultural issues, is really, really crucial, especially at the moment where the European budget is being discussed, and it's for us a core element of the political agenda. So, while recognizing your role and also inviting you to play it in full, in order to make sure that this discussion, especially the discussion on the MFF, reaches out to citizens and also is explained in the most simple and understandable ways, I really would like to thank you for the event, for inviting and having us here. As Mr. Rouillon couldn't make it, but I'm very happy that I could meet you under these circumstances. And I cannot but wish you a very fruitful discussion, and thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much. I understand you have to go, so thank you so much.
A pleasure.
So, dear colleague, distinguished members of the European Commission, European Parliament, and European Committee of Regions, it's agricultural organization, and of course all the friends of ENAJ network. It's really an honor to me, for me, I'm sorry, I'm still French, as chairwoman of the European Network of Agricultural Journalists, to welcome you for this event. So it's our second symposium in Brussels, and it's, well, it's 2 years ago we've gone to the European Parliament as an important body, of course, of the political evolution in Europe. And we saw that the Committee of Regions is something that we may add value to the member also to visit here. So since this first symposium that we've dedicated to food sovereignty, the European agricultural landscape has known a number of tremendous shifts. It's also the same with all the world of farming. I mean, farmers are very high placed on the heart of the people, on the citizen, but they are also sometimes not very well liked, appreciated, we may say. And so what we think is that farming is at the very heart of every public conversation now. But amidst all this noise, one question is remaining for us as ENAJ: who is telling the story with accuracy, nuance, and expertise? This is where we come in. As agricultural journalists, we are the translators who want to be. We are is quite strong. We aim to be the translators of this complexity. We do not merely report facts, even if it's the basis of our job. We explain Brussels politics to the dairy farmers in Brittany as well as in Romania, and we bring the stark realities of the field to the ears of European decision makers. I say it's our aim. But we must learn how to navigate in information flows. I want to remind you that ENAJ, as a European network of ag journalists, is not the association of agricultural journalists, but the association of their guilds, national guilds. I mean, our members are the guilds, and when we count off the members of our members, we are around 3,000 members now. And so, well, we want to communicate directly to the journalists also all this added value. We are not just a professional association, we are a family. This symposium is an opportunity to step out of our national silos and realize that the challenge faced by the journalists in Poland are often the very same as those faced by the colleague in Spain or in Germany. The theme of this second symposium is clear for us: to strengthen our networks and our skills for high-quality information. As we are journalists, the evolution of our profession is also moving quite fast. We know social media, we know fake news, we know influences, and so on. That is why we will hear, as an opening speech, input of Julie from Reporters Without Borders, to remind all of us of the risk of being a journalist and all the risks some of our colleagues are taking every day. And we want to share that moment with all our friends doing their job in countries at war, Ukraine, of course, whose guild is member of ENAJ, in Africa, in Middle East, and everywhere, when freedom of the press, which is the basis of the founders of ENAJ, and journalists' lives are threatened. Let us also have a thought for our colleagues around the world who do not share our privilege of safety. Our mission reminds us of the absolute necessity of a free press, and our thoughts go out to all those places where press freedom is stifled and where the lives of journalists are under threat. Their courage in the face of adversity reinforces our own commitment to the truth. I would like also to warmly thank our partners, as Eurocommerce, who support the symposium with lunch and coffee break. I hope you did appreciate it. And all the organization team of ENAJ, you see the people on the board there. That I've walked a lot, and it's tirelessly, even far away from Brussels, to collect the information that we want to share today with you. Agriculture is, for me, the bedrock of our civilization. Without farmers, there is no food. Without agricultural journalism, there is no public understanding of this vital sector. Even if we are not monopolizing the information about agriculture, as Claire will show us at the closing remarks. Because all the media, the general media, has also something to say about agriculture, and they also must be more and more part of our family. So I want just to give the floor to Klaus, 1 minute for him to explain, because we've got colleagues online, and to remind you that we are recorded. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jan, and I'd like to warmly welcome also the viewers online. We have numerous people there, and just to remind you that the event will be recorded. Unfortunately, we don't have a chat function in the live stream, but you will be able to participate and ask questions and comment on social media. We hope to use X and LinkedIn. We'll be following those. If you have any questions there, don't hesitate to put it there, and we will raise it up to the speakers and panelists. But also from my side, warmly welcome.
Thanks. So as you see behind me, the program will begin with our colleague from Reporters Without Borders, Julie, and the floor is yours.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for the invitation. Yeah, so I've been working for Reporters Without Borders for almost 10 years now. I am the representative to the EU institution for RSF. RSF is a press freedom organization. We had our 40th birthday this year. And, well, I'm very happy to talk a bit about press freedom. So press freedom is not going well in the world. That's not new, but it's getting worse. And what is most worrying is that press freedom is not only under attack in authoritarian regimes, it is also being weakened inside our democracies, where trust in media is eroding a little more every single day. In short, journalism is in crisis, but not one crisis, several crises at once. A geopolitical crisis. Across the world, authoritarian and populist leaders are trying to control information. In countries like China, Myanmar, or Russia, a tweet can send you to prison. These are the world's biggest jailers of journalists. And their objective is clear: a world without independent journalism, a world without scrutiny, a world where only one narrative exists. Then we have a technological crisis. Today people say, I saw this on YouTube, I read this on Facebook or X, but what source? Is it trustworthy? Who knows? Who cares? Social media platforms are not neutral. They are amplification machines. They reward outrage. They reward anger. They reward confirmation bias. And algorithms don't ask if it's true. They ask, will this keep people clicking? Will this keep people scrolling? And the most dangerous consequence of that, it does not only mislead people, it destroys trust in all information, including journalistic information. Then we have a democratic crisis. We are facing a crisis of political hostility toward journalists. When a president calls the media the enemy of the people, it is not a slip, it's a strategy. When leaders mock insult or discredit journalists, they send a signal. Journalists are legitimate targets. Discredit the press, undermine trust, weaken scrutiny. This is how democratic erosion works. You don't ban journalists overnight. You delegitimize them until nobody listens to them. And we have also a crisis of trust. Journalists are increasingly seen not as watchdogs, but as adversaries. We see it in protest, we see it online, we see it in daily interactions. The erosion of trust in the media is a very dangerous trend today. And finally, journalism is facing a structural economic crisis. The digital transformation brought the media to their knees in many countries. Falling revenues, shrinking newsroom, concentration ownership, and when media are financially weak, they become vulnerable to political pressure, to economic influence, to commercial pressure. The most visible threat is violence. Physical attacks against journalists are the most visible and brutal violation of press freedom. Today, hundreds of journalists are detained worldwide. And to be precise, in our website, I checked yesterday, we are at 477 journalists detained. More than 1,700 have been killed in the past 20 years. But journalists do not die, they are killed. They are not in prison, regimes lock them up. They do not disappear, they are kidnapped. In Gaza, the scale of the tragedy is unprecedented. Since October 2023, over 220 journalists have been killed by the Israeli army. In Ukraine, at least 16 journalists have been killed since the Russian invasion. They are not accidents. These are violations of international law. Targeted or indiscriminated killing of journalists, whether committed deliberately or recklessly, is a war crime. But most of the time, those crimes go unpunished. And the problem is not a lack of legal frameworks. International law exists. The real problem is the lack of enforcement, the lack of will. But protecting journalists starts with fighting impunity. We must hold all those responsible for these murders to account. And RSF has submitted 5 complaints to the International Criminal Court for Israeli army's war crimes committed against journalists. Because we need to remind ourselves as citizens that journalists are dying for us, to keep us informed, and we must continue to count, name, condemn, investigate, and ensure that justice is served. But today, the most systemic threat is economic fragility. This is exactly what came out of Reporters Without Borders 2025 World Press Freedom Index. The economic indicator has fallen at an unprecedented critical low. News media are trapped between ensuring their economic survival and preserving their editorial independence. And one major factor explains this: the dominance of tech platforms. These platforms are absorbing an ever-growing share of advertising revenues that would usually support journalism. They capture up to 80% of digital advertising revenue. They control audience, they shape visibility, and this creates a structural imbalance. We are outsourcing public debate to profit-driven algorithms, and this creates informational chaos and economic fragility at the same time. This is why the system must be rebalanced, because even if we talk about new models or innovative ideas, unless we really tackle the issue of platform dominance head-on, we're just patching up a system that put journalism at risk. And this is why RSF supports and advocates for a digital tax on major platforms, with part of the revenue dedicated to supporting the news sector. This idea is not ours. It is backed by leading economists, including Nobel Prize winners like Joseph Stiglitz or Philippe Aghion. This logic is simple. Since big tech take massive profit from the work of others, it's only fair that they contribute directly to the system that makes that work possible before we ask ordinary taxpayers to carry the burden of funding free and independent media. And now let's go to Europe, to the European Union. Well, first, I think it's important to remind us and you that EU remains the region in the world where media freedom is best protected and where journalists are the safest. But we should not be complacent. The deterioration on media freedom in countries that are democracies is something we must take very seriously. Because if democracies don't actively defend this freedom, we risk losing it altogether. The assassination of Maltese journalist Daphne Caruana Galizia in broad daylight by a car bomb in 2016, and 4 months later, the murder of Slovak journalist Jan Kuciak, who was shot dead at his home along with his fiancée, Marina Kostrunova, were a shock. These two journalists were deliberately targeted for their work exposing corruption. They remind us that even in the EU, journalists can be killed for doing their job. But it's only the tip of the iceberg. Intimidation and pressure are increasing everywhere. Verbal attacks, physical attacks, online harassment, judicial harassments. The defense of trustworthy journalism, meaning journalism that is free, independent, and rigorous, has become a major challenge for democratic societies and for the EU. The EU has started to react. The murder of Daphne Caruana Galizia and Jan Kuciak came as a shock. And under the leadership of Commissioner Vera Jourova, the EU adopted the European Media Freedom Act, the Anti-SLAPP Directive, and in 2021, recommendation on the safety of journalists. The European Media Freedom Act is a historic step. It's the first ever European legislation on press freedom. It is not perfect, but for the first time, we have a common framework to protect media freedom, independence, and pluralism across the EU. We have a common framework to protect journalists and media from political and economic interference. But let's be clear. A law is only as strong as its enforcement, and today we are far from it. The European Media Freedom Act came into force last August, and only 2 member states, Finland and Denmark, are fully in line. This is why enforcement, including infringement procedures and legal action, will be crucial in the coming years. We need to make the most of it by putting pressure on member states, by putting pressure on the European Commission, and if necessary, by taking cases to court. And we have started doing that in France about a recent concentration, but we are still waiting for the answer because, as you know, unfortunately, going to court takes time. Concerning the anti-SLAPP directive, the transposition deadline is on May 7th, And we can expect that many member states, like France, won't meet the deadline. There are two main challenges here. First, the inclusion of strictly domestic cases, which represent the vast majority of SLAPs, because without this, the transposition of the directive will lose most of its practical usefulness. And the second point is going beyond civil and commercial matters to include criminal proceedings, because the majority of SLAPs are based on defamation claims, and in several countries, such as France, defamation is a criminal offense, meaning that most cases fall under criminal law. So if criminal proceedings are excluded, the future directive risks having very limited impact in practice. Concerning the recommendation of safety of journalists, the Commission has announced that it will update the recommendation in 2027. I don't know how much time I have.
Still have 2 minutes.
Oh, okay. So I'm just going to skip what comes next, which was the multi-financial framework with the EU Agora program, which will concern the media. It's the framework for 2028 and 2024. And the other main priority is the revision of the Audiovisual Media Services Directive. And I will just, say a word about access to reliable information. Because even if we have good laws and funding, one key question remains. How do we make sure citizens actually have access to reliable information? And this brings us back once again to the platforms. More and more people get their news from social media and video platforms, but these platforms run on algorithms designed to maximize profit, not public interest. They amplify what's viral, not what's informed. And we also need to stop confusing freedom of expression with freedom of amplification. When it comes to platforms, the issue is not about silencing opinions. It's about regulating system that massively amplifies some content while burying other content. And when content moderation rules are described as censorship, we need to ask, are we limiting speech, or are we regulating amplification systems that distort public debate? So at RSF, we are advocating for a legal obligation to give more visibility to reliable information, to trusted journalism sources, because allowing commercial deals, profit-driven algorithm, and unaccountable AI system to shape what people see and believe is not just a media problem, it's a democratic problem. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Julie. We thought that you might have some questions, and the device in front of you, which you just have to click and ask the question. So the first one is also Damien. You've got a question. Yeah, you do.
I must have pressed something by accident. I didn't. But thank you very much for a very, very informative presentation. And it's fairly sobering to hear the statistics when you put them together like that, the dangerous job that journalists are involved in around the world. I just wonder, when we talk about social media, how much is social media and what's appearing on social media influencing the mainstream media, and maybe interfering in a way in journalists and how they actually work in a world of cancel culture, and online pylons, particularly against journalists because they have an opinion or they conduct an interview with a politician in a certain way or a certain manner. I just wonder, is the standard of mainstream journalism now being contaminated is probably too strong of a word, but are mainstream journalists now looking over their shoulder? Maybe it's not a question for you specifically on that, but when you do talk about the impact of social media and big tech on our lives, on our daily lives, when we click our phone, we're being brought through all these algorithms, and I just worry that the next generation of journalists may not be of the standard or quality or have the same ethics maybe as mainstream journalism in the past because of this social media quagmire that we live in. So that's just a thought off the top of my head. I worked in mainstream media. I've gone to the dark side. And no, I work here now in the agricultural sphere of lobbying in Brussels. But I did spend 30-odd years working in mainstream media, and I did see major changes, obviously, in that time from when I actually began. Thank you.
Shall I answer?
Yeah.
Well, what can I say? Well, first, as I described, there are many crises today, and this is weakening journalism and making it more difficult. So I think it's not because the new generation doesn't care about ethics or professional journalistic rules. It's because there are more and more pressure because of the platforms. It's not to copy the platform. So I think, yes, what is really important is to regulate better platforms, but also all the issues I raised, and I think the European Media Freedom Act can help if it is enforced. But I also want to say that there are also very good new format of journalism on social network, and there are some creativity to adapt to, yes, what young people, but not only young people, want to see. So I'm not putting, all on the negative side, but to make sure that there is a future for journalism, we really need to make it a priority, and it is crucial because without informed citizens, there is no democracy.
Have we got another question? Someone young, for example? Oh, take the floor. Just present yourself, please.
Hi, I'm Alexis Schutz, and I work for European Livestock Voice. And my question is to kind of double down on social media. I wanted to have your opinion on, just to name a few, Hugo Décrypte, Gaspard G, and like another one like Charles Villa, for example.
Well, as I said, it's not a question of opinion, but yes, I think this new format are working. I think what they do is really interesting and trustworthy. There is this debate now at EU level, but not only at the EU level, also in member states, because they are between influencers and media. But some of the influencers, are very similar to media. So there is this debate about how we can regulate or label or things like that, and I think that's an important debate to have. And so yes, as I said, there's plenty of new things which are encouraging for the future.
Thank you very much. I want to thank you, Julie. And unfortunately, she has to go because she's got a meeting with freedom of the press in some country just in a moment. So I thank you very much because personally I learn a lot, and I think it's good that we give this value to all members. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me. It was unexpected. I mean, I don't talk to agricultural journalists every day, so I was very happy to do it and to see that you were interested.
Thank you very much.
Have a nice symposium.
All right. And you know that it's a recording, so if you want to learn afterward with our job, you will be able to learn about that. Thank you so much. So the second case speakers, because we've got two, because, well, we are generous with you. It's Katharina Sözer. She's one of pioneer of ENAJ also. You've been a journalist several years before becoming. Can you just switch the microphone off, Julie, please? Thank you. And nowadays, Katharina is. We'll learn techniques. No, you're shutting my microphone. Oh. I want to present you. So you are our treasurer. I mean, Katharina has been involved in ENAJ from the beginning, and it's very important for us that there is transmission of the knowledge of, like Damien, in fact, and it's really a privilege for us to take your input. And nowadays, Katharina is a teacher in journalism and communication or media. And you've done a very interesting study about our way of acting. And the floor is yours.
Thank you, Jana. I just have to control the time. So I have 20 minutes, I think. 20 minutes. Thank you. So thank you very much for the nice introduction. I just would like to add that before I became a teacher, I studied agriculture, and I was also working as an editor and as an agricultural freelancer. And I did not only participate in the European network, but I have also been 15 years chairwoman of the German agricultural journalists. So this is really a big passion of me, and so I'm very happy that I can talk about agricultural journalism today. So thank you very much. So today I would like to show you some results from research that we have done at Hochschule Bonn-Rhein-Sieg. And I think this research is very important because agricultural journalists play an important role, as we have already heard today from Janne, and because there is very little scientific research done on agricultural journalism, and especially on agricultural journalists. So this research is, I must mention it because it's important, it's also supported by the European Union. It's supported by the Horizon Project EU Farm Book. And maybe I can say one sentence to EU Farm Book. EU Farm Book is about knowledge transfer. So it's, the aim is to build up a digital platform which makes available all the information of EU-funded projects to the agricultural practice. It's okay. Thank you. Oh yeah, much better. I can hear myself. And so the consortium decided that it would be also important to involve agricultural journalists into this consortium. And what we do is that we organize every year a press event where we inform agricultural journalists about innovations and also about innovation transfer. And in this project, there is also some research done on how innovation transfer can be improved. So, yeah, I just wanted to show you that research has a human face. So we don't do research only by artificial intelligence. All research that we have done, we do it together with master students of a master program, Digital Journalism and Media Innovation. And this is a lot of fun. And in this case, they interviewed agricultural journalists from 11 countries in the EU. And the photo shows a group of last year when they presented their research to the press officer of the Federal Office of Agriculture and Food, BLE. And you see we are all very happy. So the research questions of the study, which I present today, were: how do you understand your role? How important are innovations for agriculture and the work of agricultural journalists? How do you work? How do you see the future of agricultural journalism? So first, I would like to start with a question. And if I was now with students, I would have a survey. I would ask you who are agricultural journalists, because many people don't know that there is even a profession, agricultural journalists. They might know journalists, yeah, that's already positive, but agricultural journalists are something really strange. And in journalist cycles, they are often perceived as lobbyists, because we are very close to agriculture and we are very close to the farmers, and very often in discussions we are in favor of farming and agriculture. So I had the experience myself when I was in my regional group of the German Association of Journalists. They always called me potato journalist, and that was always funny, but it showed the skepticism behind. So how do agricultural journalists understand their role by themselves? And if you ask them, you can see that they have a very clear ethical compass. Their job is to report independently and comprehensively on everything that is important to their target audience. They do not want to be an extension of companies' PR or politicians, because that would violate their professional ethics and undermine their credibility as journalists, both among their target audience, but also within journalistic cycles, and I also think in society. So the ethics don't differ with the ethics of journalists in the mainstream media. The challenge of the journalists is to find the truly relevant innovation in the jungle of information and report it. And you can see it, you can see always a flag, and beside you see a quote. And to make the presentation maybe a bit more authentical, I put the quotes there. So there was a quote: "The journalist has to find the innovation. It's a big job to analyze whether something is new or not. It's difficult to avoid falling in the trap of communication and marketing." Agricultural journalists have to focus on the farmers, because they are the main audience. Yeah? But the agricultural journalist should not only focus on technical details, they should also show the whole picture. And they should also help farmers to understand why certain transitions are necessary. So it's much more than only explaining technology. And agricultural journalists also think that it is important to explain agriculture to outsiders. And this has changed. It's very interesting, because 20, 30 years ago, sorry, I'm old, in my circles, everybody said, okay, we don't have to explain it, they will never understand. But today, the people want to understand. So some agricultural journalists see themselves as mediators and sources for the public media. And you can see this also in the quote: "We are not only serving farmers, but we are also serving society, the consumers, the politicians, because agriculture is everywhere and we must show that." So what do agricultural journalists say about innovations? That was something which was quite interesting for us. it showed us an interesting picture, because the idea of what is an innovation was different. In the southeastern part of Europe, it was more or less linked to a technical innovation, a new product. In the northwestern part, it was also seen as the development of new processes, social innovation, and there was also seen the difference between incremental innovations, that means continuous steps of improvements to existing technologies and processes rather than replacing them, like, for example, enhanced GPS and tractor control or improved seed varieties. And you have the disruptive innovations that replace whole production systems and processes like autonomous machinery, for example, and robots. So there were differences, but all the journalists were the same opinion that innovations are important for farmers, that they are the drivers of transformation, and that innovations also help agricultural journalists to tell good stories. So here again I have some quotes. For example, the quote, "The major challenges facing agriculture, production, greening, biodiversity issues can only be solved through innovation." And also that agricultural journalists think that this topic is very relevant for the farmers. So now I have a photo of a colleague who is here. I didn't ask her, but I love this photo. The question behind is, how do agricultural journalists get access to information? And here again, it was really all the journalists said that for us, farms and farmers are the most important source of information. So this was really, I think also the difference to journalists of public media. And beside of this, of course, agricultural journalists use a lot of sources like trade fairs, events which are organized by associations, chambers of agriculture, associations of agriculture, political organizations, companies, both nationally and internationally. I think agricultural journalists are always looking across the borders, and this is also typical. You can also see it when we are struggling with our languages, that we are all coming from different countries, and our press events in different countries are really the basis of our work. And of course, digital sources like Google News, social media. So I think there is a big influence on social media also on our work. And of course, press conferences are very important. So here I will not, I will look, okay, so I will not read it to you. Maybe the presentation can be shared with you, but maybe one or two quotes because they are so nice. One journalist said, "Sometimes you have to drive for 2 hours because the farmer lives in the middle of nowhere. And then you have to drive back and you spend a whole day, but I think we have to do it because it's like a community. And if you don't see each other, you lose people." And another colleague said, "I get 99% of the information from my articles on farms." I think behind is that journalists always need to be exclusive. If you just, repeat what other media or other people have already published, it's not new. And so it's also the exclusiveness to talk to a farmer and to be there. Yeah, now, how do agricultural journalists process and publish information? And yeah, that is also interesting because you can see very clearly the shift towards digital publication. So when I started my career, agricultural journalist was writing articles for print media, and agricultural journalism has already also a very long history. So in some countries, we have quite a lot of well-established old titles, and quite a lot of them, I can only say for Germany, I'm not so sure in other countries, but quite a lot of them still exist. But nowadays, of course, this content is also available digital. And with the digital publication, new formats developed like videos, podcasts, and they are a good addition. And the clear shift towards digital media is also expressed by a quote of a colleague. And she said, I believe before I came here, it was definitely print first. We have now reversed that principle so that whenever we are at press conferences, whenever political issues arise, we make sure we publish it online immediately. And in the best case scenario, also on social media. Yeah, some things are more or less have not changed so much. Interviews play an important role. Photos are very important. And reports and features play an important role, especially best practice examples. And this is also expressed in the quote, my reports often focus on practical examples. When farmers see what is already working on other farms, they can imagine it much better. So what are the challenges of agricultural journalists? I think I can shorten up this part because Julie has already... Now I have 15 minutes. I have 5 minutes left.
5 minutes.
Yeah. So Julie has already talked about the threats like digital platforms and algorithms, lack of money and resources. But maybe we switch directly to the agricultural journalists because I think they have additional stress and additional challenges because these are the expectations of different interest groups. And many people in politics, business, and society that don't know the difference between journalists and PR professionals. And they expect the journalists to spread their messages. And that is, I would say, a problem in agricultural journalism because we are so close to interest groups. And there is also quite a lot of pressure of editor houses which belong to interest groups. They also have a lot of pressure on the journalists. So it's not easy. And the financial independence is a bit a problem. It's much easier for the permanent employees, but they have to watch that they don't say something which some people might not like so much. But the freelancers, that is really a very difficult situation, and you can also see it with a quote, it is not easy for freelancers, the payment is incredibly bad. So I leave it like that. Very shortly, the pathways into agricultural journalism, they are quite diverse. Today, or nowadays, journalists and communication studies become more and more the academic background of agricultural journalists. In my time, it was agricultural studies and or technical studies, training on the job. Very often it is agricultural background, but it is also possible that you have a complete career change, and this shows that agricultural journalism is open for interested people, which is positive. And here you see some quotes. It comes from, I have a degree in food engineering, or I studied communication sciences, or I grew up on a farm. And what I can say from our research is that very often influencers and ag bloggers are farmers. Yeah, so they are also part of the communication system. The future of agricultural journalism. So of course we discussed the future of agricultural journalism. And to make it short, agricultural journalists think that agricultural journalism has a future. And this is positive, because this is not so typical. If you have other surveys among journalists, they all see the threat of AI and so on. And this might be, the reason might be that it is really special knowledge which is needed, and which is not only needed by the farmers. The problem is that we have less and less farmers, so there might be the danger that some title might give up, but we have the need of the society to explain agriculture. So, they also say that agriculture is getting so complex and so demanding that you need professionals to support information. Even if you have other good sources, it's necessary. And there will be clearly a shift to digital media. So it is necessary to have further training in digital tools and new media. For example, social media will become more important in agricultural journalism, and you need specialists for that. Yeah, if you are young, you have certainly some advantages in this. And of course, we have also the threat of artificial intelligence. But on the other hand, professionals will still be needed. And I would like to close with some remarks on how ag journalists can be supported, because we found out they are important, they are threatened, they have a hard job. And so here are some remarks. So important for us is that we get the important information. Provide information on or give access to all topics which are relevant to farmers. Of course, everything about EU regulation, legislation, but also the background information, the studies, and to be able to explain what is going on. Interviews with decision makers and experts will be very, very important, will stay important. Photos, video material on request, clear identification of sender and sources. We had this already today. And last thing I want to say, respect for independent reporting. Thank you very much.
I like your conclusion. So we've got 5 minutes for some questions. If people are okay, Thor, can you present yourself?
Yeah, so I'm Thor Dijert from Landbouwleven in Flanders. I had a question about the sources, because we're talking about innovation. I was surprised that universities and research institutions were not named in the list. Could you explain why that may be the case?
Your microphone.
I think I had it in the second, didn't I put it there, universities and...
If I noted it correctly, it was trade fairs, events, chambers of agriculture, political orgs and companies.
Okay, this is a good example for a brilliant journalist who found the first mistake. Of course, these are also sources. It is hidden under the press releases. I think I put press releases, and usually they inform by press releases. And of course, they are also a source. Yeah, I should have written it down. Thank you, Thor.
Thank you. Another question? Katharina will stay with us till the end of the symposium, so you will have the opportunity to... She's shutting the voice of the press. So if it's okay, any one of you a question there? Oh, sorry, Jean-Michel.
Yes, so no, I just, because you...
Can you just remind the people there who you are?
Jean-Baptiste Boucher. I'm the communication director of Copa-Cogeca, the farming and the agri-cooperative organization in Brussels. No, I just wanted to ask you a question because you tackled the topic of the background of the agri-journalists a little bit, but I wanted to know if there can be a parallel or comparison with farmer actually. Like, are there still today, or are there today like still a majority of the ag press that have a family background in agriculture or connection with agriculture, or is it more and more young people that have studied in different fields and that are coming, I don't know if we say by accident, by chance, by whatever, to the agri-journalist? And then I just wanted to make a comment because I'm always shocked to hear that basically like other journalists, mainstream journalists, consider agri-journalists to be a sort of lobbyist. If I connect that to the intervention that was done a few minutes ago when we say that it is what is killing journalists is a delegitimization of journalism. If journalists start doing that among themselves, it's a bit painful, I would say.
Okay, the first, I must say that I cannot answer both questions. The first question I cannot answer because the study we did is, it's not representative. So I would say that in the past, it was very clearly most of the agricultural journalists came from agriculture or had an agricultural background or agricultural studies. And I think in Germany it's still like that, but we see that other backgrounds are also successful, are very good journalists. And so as I mean, this is just what I think. I could imagine that it becomes more important to have a non-agricultural background, but because there are less farmers, and on the other side, the young people are very interested in agriculture, so which is positive. Yeah, I think it's positive. And the second point you made, yeah, you're absolutely right. But here I'm also positive thinking because we heard it already today. The agricultural journalists are opening up, and on the other side there is more interest from the society in agriculture, and therefore also the journalists of mainstream media get more interested. So I think that that this will improve, and also maybe by events as we have them today, that we talk about who we are, what we do, and but yeah, it's not less representative what we did, but maybe we can improve the research on agricultural journalism.
Thank you very much. So I want to thank you, Katharina, again. And now we've got a coffee break of a quarter of an hour. And afterward, we will have the two panels that Melanie will moderate. So I ask you to come back at 3:25 because for the online colleague, we need to be there on time for them. So thank you very much, and have a coffee and some sandwiches.